welcome back. A couple of things to talk about I suppose today, starting with some new kit. Now a couple of weeks ago I mentioned that I was after a B80 and they were out of stock at the Malt Miller. Well, they came back in, but I didn't get one of them, mainly because they put the price up and my budget was blown out of the water. When you add all the other bits and shit into it, it would have been looking at about best part of 2,800, which is an increase from the 2,005, which I decided that I was going to be extravagant and spend on something I didn't really need. So what I did, I thought about it. I thought, well, what do you want out of the system? Why are you going for B80? Well, the reality of it is that I wanted something that was a little bit bigger than the B40, because the B40 won't do a big mash bill. It won't do anything over. It says it'll do 9. I think it might do 9 if it's a piss poor weak beer at 4%. You get about 40 litres out of it, but it won't do 9 kilo in a big bill. It struggles, doesn't like it. So I sacked that idea off and I went for the Grainfather G40, which is sat right there. The reason I went for that, it was 1,100 quid. It came with a free grain mill. I bought a TV, 43-inch TV, which is going to sit there on the wall so I can watch really shit telly when I'm brewing, and some other bits and pieces as well. And I've still got £1,000 left over. So that was the thought process behind it. Gutted that I didn't get the B80 to start with, because that would have been the ideal, but I started off in brewing the bag on this big pot here, which is now my HLT, not HLT, my Sparge tank with a buffalo heater underneath. Moved to a G30, switched to B40, wanted to switch to a B80, but now I'm back on a G40. I've still got the B40, the Brewtools kit. Won't be getting a shot of that. I still think that's a brilliant piece of kit, and the only way that I could probably difference between the two from in my own head is that a Brewtools system is the closest you'll get to a 3-vessel system in a 1-pot system, whereas something like a G40 or a G30, it's the closest you will get to a brew in the bag system that's made out of metal. It's easier, but it should be easier. The G30 was quite straightforward to use. The only thing I didn't like about that is because it wasn't really a clean in place system. It was light enough to tip it up, but you don't want to be fucking about with messy hops and shit in the bottom of a pub and trying to tuck it into another container. The filter at the bottom used to pop off on a regular basis, and I tried clipping that in to stop that happening, but I was a bit too exuberant with the whirlpool on times. It just didn't like it, so got fucked off with it. Had some money come in and thought, you know what, I'll buy the B40. Got it at a steal, in all honesty. It come in about, I think I paid 1,100 quid for it, but then when you put the 4-valve kit on at 970 quid, I think it was, plus the laser cut filter, the turbinator, the steam hat, a load of other bits of shit just to hardwire it instead of having the silicon plumbing around. I bet you're not far off the best part of 2.5 grand with that anyway, but that's me. That's what I do. Waste money. But hey ho, let's see how today goes. We are putting together a simple tester brew. I've done this before, probably on B40. It was a lager bill. It was a pilsner. All it is 5 kilo of simple lager milk, a couple of 100 grams of dextrin, and fermented out with the key yeast for this sort of beer, Lutra, because it'll be done by the weekend. Happy days. That's what I need. SARS all the way through, 100 grams split between different boil options. I think there's something like 60, 45, 30 and 20, whatever they are, but it's nothing extravagant. But it should be done by the weekend, be able to sync that back on the coronation weekend, where we will then be putting this system, the Grainfather system, through a bigger test, because what I built it for in the first instance, I've got a Imperial Stout that I want to bang through it, which should come out at about 12.5–13%. But we'll see. doesn't matter if I lose some efficiency on that. Doesn't move. I'll move some of the probably the gravity readings on it, because ultimately the high starting value is so high, the finishing value is so high, it could probably afford to drop down a couple of points, and we'd still be left with a fuck off hefty beer that will probably still be kicking around by Christmas 24. So I've cleaned this out already, or just done a thorough wash with the PBW, star sand it, all that sort of stuff, drained it all out. Did that earlier on today. Just going to bring it up to the standard mash temp, which I think we're going at 66. So strike water is probably going to be around about 70, 71. I'll check it on Brewfather when I turn this thing off and then turn it up. But then we'll probably be back looking at that in a minute. I'm not bothering using the automated program on it. I just can't. I'm too used to doing it manually on Brewtools now. I just, my head can't cope with that many different things going on. So I'm probably better off sticking with that process and just manually lifting it, met temperatures, pumping when I need to pump it, and all that sort of stuff. Sparge when I need to sparge. So we shall kick off. I'll talk you through a few beers that I've got on tap as well halfway through, and I've got a beer review from Brett Harmon. He did send me, well, I say send. I went around his house and stole them, to be fair. He gave me 6. I've got 2 left. One because I can't take the top off the dipper because it is too tight, and the other one, this is Imperial Stout Brett Zer. So we can see how we get on with those today. Good job. This is a very simple grain bill and hopping schedule, because it could get messy once I've had a couple of them and a couple of Brett's beers. Hey, Wednesday, what are you going to do? Right, off we go. Right then, so here we go. I think my strike temperature is set to 70. My mash is going to be 65, 66, I think it is. So it's just coming up to temperature now. I've got 5 kilo of Simpson's lager malt and 200 grams of dextry malt to go in there. So see how long this takes to come to temperature. It's fairly quick, to be fair. It's coming up at a fair old rate, and you can see in the background there, look at that. Oh, B40's been put to bed for a day or two. Don't cry, we'll be back soon. Okay, hop additions are 40 grams of SARS at 50, 30 grams of SARS at 10, and 30 grams of SARS at flame out. Should give us a IBU of 23. Doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But we'll see where that ends up. On a 5.3% beer, should we put them back to 60? If we move this to 60, let's see what happens. 60. That pushes the dial up a little bit. Let's remove. Let's put that to 20. Right, okay, so let's do that. Let's go with 40 at 60, 30 at 20, and 30 at flame out. That'll give us IBUs of 27, a Boogie of 54, or 0.54. 54 would be a bit bitter, wouldn't it? Anyway, 0.54, there we go. 34 degrees. It takes its time getting up. I'm not completely sure how long this is going to take to go to a get the temp on a big batch, to be fair. We'll see. Or a double batch, should I say. Big batch and grain and a single fermenter is probably one thing, but double the volume could be a bit of an eventful day, to be fair. But there you go. Get what you pay for, I suppose. Let's see what happens. What I have noticed with this, and what is probably lacking, is the fact there is no there's no fancy coat for it. So the G30's got the grain coat. The B40, B80, B150 have all got neoprene jackets as well. This poor bastard's sitting here naked. So it's probably a reason why it's struggling to get to. I'd say struggling. It's not struggling. That's a bit of a lie. It's just not as quick as I want it to go, which is a bit different to how fast it can go. I suppose if I put it next to the B40 and see what the difference is, you might see a big difference. But the power in the B40 is only 3.2, so it's not a great deal in it. I suppose what, 10%. But the B40 is thicker steel, so thicker steel, so it'll probably hold the heat a bit better as well. I think this is 0.8 in the other ones, and the B40 is 1 mil. So what's that? 20% thicker, 10% slower. So. Oh well, we're at 37 now, rattling up there. Hey. In the meantime, this is my fluff beer. I think I spoke about this the other week. I don't know whether this one I reviewed or whatever, but this is my one with Eldorado, Citra, Mosaic. There's a little bit of Sabro in there as well. This is one that really has got a pithy, orangey smell to it. It's not the normal flavours. Originally, when it came out, it was hazier than this. You can see through it now, sort of. If I put the thing that way, you can definitely see through it. Put it that way, you can still see through. So it's not as hazy as it once was. It did come out thick and juicy, but no, it's sort of thinned itself out a bit. But the body's still there, and it has got a really zesty flavour to it. So it is coming through quite well. But this one came out at 4.7, which I think I've mentioned earlier, but it was supposed to be something like 5.2. I've just put another one in the keg, which is meant to be 5.9 to come out at 6.6. So different yeast, different fermenting conditions, and this was the first one I'd done in about 4 or 5 months. So my regime may not have been on point, should we say. I thought it was. I had a new fermenter as well, that Apollo Kinker that's sitting down there, so hey ho. Other than that, it's an absolutely fantastic bit. It's got a certain floral flavour to it, a floral note on it as well, but you can really smash this down, which isn't ideal on a Wednesday night. Whoa, we're more than halfway there. Whoa! 53 degrees out of 70. The time is, to give you an idea, 17:23. I'm sure I kicked this off at about 1700, so 23 minutes. Measure that out. 54 at 17:23. See how long it takes to get. Well, there's a different design floor if ever I saw one. See this? Where do I put this? Doesn't fit anywhere. Make that handle a little bit bigger and it'll just sit on the side quite nicely. But no, has to sit on top. Or make the wooden top all mucky and wet and damp. Never mind. 58 degrees. Oh, here we go. So 64.5 degrees. We're almost mashing in, and it is 17:30. So to be fair, it's coming up quite quick. It's not that bad at all. That's it there. I've got the chiller there, Sparge heater there on the buffalo piece. What I might try and do at some point, so I've got the Brewtools counterflow there. I may see if I can fuck that thing off and actually use the Brewtools one. I think get some 10mm valves for it, and I might be able to fit into these tubes. Whether or not the pump's got the flow to go around it and actually being effective as this, because I do know that these chillers are pretty good, to be fair, and they do get your temps down pretty quickly. I say pretty quickly, it gets the liquid down, it comes out of it pretty quickly. The problem is it doesn't pump it around as quick as that motherfucker does. So let's see where we go. Got another, I'm going to guess, 3 or 4 minutes before we actually start stirring in. And the good news is, I still use my big spoon. Boom, happy days. Right then, here we go. Time is 17:37 and we are at 70 degrees. So, what we do now, because we've got nowhere to stick our handle, our lid, we use a trusty brew rag. Wipe all the residue off of that. hygiene is front and centre. 69.5 it's got on there now, so it's still, PID's obviously kicking in and up. It's probably there or thereabouts where I am, but let's go in with the thermopen and see where we are with that one. And we are sitting at about, ooh, 70. That says 68, so let's give that a spin. I'm sure the elements from the bottom of this, it's hotter at the bottom than it is at the top. I'm no scientist, but I'm guessing that's the way it works. I reckon we just sit there for another minute or two, watch that tick along, and hopefully we won't be far away. In the meantime, I can sort of sit there and slurp a little bit more of this until the wife comes home and demands that I should be cooking her tea instead of fucking about in the garage, which was the phone call I had about her. And there we go. Oh well, I like the sandwich, I'm alright. It's only pork chops. Mind you, the thick ones, I quite like a pork chop. I'll mooch in there later to see how we go. Right then, it wasn't getting to 70, it stuck about 68.5, 69, so what I've done is bolt it up by one, in fact, I'll stick it up by two. Let's go for 72, hopefully then when we it does get to 72, by the time I've done everything I need to do, it will just drop back down into the 60 to 70. Whether it's the PID that's overshooting, undershooting, I don't know, but it's struggling to settle on the final figure. I'm not I say struggling. It's probably not struggling. It's probably just not what I'm used to. And do I ever check the water temperature in the Brewfather system, in the Brewtools system? No, I just assume that it's right, which is probably the wrong thing to do because it's probably just as fucking way out as this thing is. But hey, we're on 70.5. And the time is 17:42. So in my head, I think what we need to do with Preacher is give it a good hour to get to that temp, or the temp that we want, because ultimately it's not getting there at the moment quickly. But you know, I suppose it's difficult. It's because the PID system works. It heats it. It doesn't want to overshoot it too far because you only got to wait for it to cool back down, so it sort of evens out over time. But I'm impatient. And we all want everything done yesterday, don't we? So I think I'll give it another 5 minutes. It should get up to where I need it to be, and then we can sit there and we can start to mash in properly and warp it all in. Good news, we are finally there. Mash temperature is in. Brew rag working wonders. Mashing it. So let's go with this. This is just the dextrin malt and the salt's going in first. We'll wild that in. And that's why we go with the 5 kilo sack, because it's just one bag. Didn't I had this already in stock, so I haven't actually got any uncrushed grain to be able to use my new toy. Here we go. And what is odd, it's an odd feel for someone that's used to an all-in-one system such as these before, is the fact that the lack of the malt pipe comes through the middle. Which makes it, I use Brew bag first off, so it is very similar to that, but it's a strange feeling when you've been using all-in-one. You have to avoid that pipe when you're mashing in, and your whisk goes around the side of it, or your spoon goes around the side of it, your mash paddle, whatever. we call it. But let's get it all bollocked in, and then see how it goes. Now, weirdly, I haven't really read the instructions for this. Because I'm not using the app or anything like that, I think see how intuitive it is. I set it all up quite easily. The setup on the app for your phone, like a breeze, the Wi-Fi system went through, so that was pretty cool. I haven't set it up to do the recipe side of it, and so it all alarms as you're going around. You can really see. I needed that for what is essentially 1 malt away from a smash recipe. But hey, that's what lager is. It's only lager. Tastes lagery, smells lagery. What is it? Lager! Nice. I'm going to sit and leave that for for 5 minutes or so, just settling down. And then just the mash temperature down to 65, so that'll start dropping in a minute once we start recirculating. See how we get on. There we go, all mashed in. Temperature probe on there says 66, which is obviously at the bottom of the tank. But when I take measurements inside, it seems to be bang on 65, so I think that's a fairly good indicator. Just let that spin around for a little while and then get it all settled and put the timer on. Right, okay, so I've checked the mash on there now in about 4 or 5 different places. We're about, I don't know, 5 minutes into the recirc and it's bang on 65, which is where I need to be. I'm guessing where the mash is in here, it sits there, it probably goes down to around about here. I guess that line's full there. But no, can't knock that, bang on. So previously, we've had such exciting episodes as on the Smash on Sunday. Now we've got on the mash on Wednesday. So, mashing in, beer in hand, which this is the West Coast IPA that I did a couple of weeks ago, which I think I also said I came out at a shockingly high final gravity of 1022 when it should have been 1015. It did have a load of residual sweetness, which sort of gave it a malt extract sort of homebrew vibe to it, but that settled out quite nicely. It's still a bit hazy as fuck, but I think that will be a USA 5 thing, and that'll come clear in a couple of weeks or so, because I won't be caning this one. This is just a taster. Do one of these a week, in 16 weeks it'll be all gone. Because there's nowhere near a full keg left, so I didn't get a full keg in there. But anyway, this is, look at the dark colour. That'll be from the Munich malt that's in there. It's got a real beautiful, you can't really see it, but it's a really beautiful marmalade colour to it, orange marmalade, and that's the sort of flavours you get from there. There's what's in this: Columbus, Simcoe, Chinook, and Centennial. Grapefruit across there as well in the back. Honestly, I think this is going to be one of the best beers I've ever made, on the basis that I will never ever be able to recreate it. But what that higher final gravity has done is give it a phenomenal body. Now, you may not want that for a West Coast. You might want a crisp finish on it, but to me, it's juicy, but not in the not in a neat, juicy way. It's just thick and unctuous. Dipper levels. I think dipper, not West Coast. I think dipper. Oh. Anyway, pork chops are cooking, and here we are. Final 6 minutes of the mash. Took a gravity reading a couple of minutes ago, 10:55. Not sure what we're meant to be on for pre-boil. Let's have a little look. So that's a brewing, that helps. And then go to brewing. 10:44 after the Sparge, so you never know. We could be somewhere within the mix. Hopefully, mind you, that was with this, and I can't stand this bag of knacker, so we'll give it another go. Once we get to the final draws, stick it in there and the hydrometer, and we'll make a decision from there. But I think it's going well so far. It's fairly straightforward. Been no real issues. I've stirred it around a couple of times. It's a bit of an odd one, because where the tube goes, I'll show you in a minute where it goes. It just seems to spin around on one side. It forces the wort around it, but I suppose because the way the grain basket is in there, there's holes around, perforated holes around the outside. It's literally pushing the wort around and not necessarily just recirculating from the top. It's going through everything. So it's going okay. You've got 4 minutes left. It hasn't rocked off that 65 mark, and I guarantee that's where it's sat all the way through. So far so good. I was going to do a beer review on one of Brett Harmon's beers. He's got a dipper that he gave me, but I think he's super glued the top onto it, because I'm fucked if I can open it. I've got arthritic fingers, so I'm a bit fucked either way, but give it to the wife. She's got a special little, I want to call it a rag, but it's made of rubber. But if you call it a rubber rag, it doesn't quite sound right, but it gives you better grip on tops of jars and bottles, and that normally clears everything. That thing, solid. So the dipper will be sent out potentially. I don't want to saw the top off it, because I think it will ruin it. I know it will ruin it. I might just send it on to somebody else, and that it could be a new challenge. Open Brett's beer. Too late. Right then, here we go. The mash is now finished. So, without further ado, we can probably stop the heat, and we can stop the pump. Brew rag, condensation. All about cleanliness. Dump you on there. Brew rag in a tray. Need to unhook you. I need you for the time being, so you can probably go into. Do I need you? No, you can go in there. What I'm going to do is just let that settle down for a minute, just to let the levels circulate and rise a bit. Just eke itself out. What I'll then do is lift that out. But in the meantime, it's only going to be a couple of minutes, but in the meantime, might as well pour a beer. Because Brett's beer is now a no-go. No bueno. We can pour ourselves another one of these. Okay, so there's meant to be. I started off with 20 litres of mash water in there, which sounded about right. I didn't measure it out of there. I just used a sight glass on the side of the G40. I thought if we're going for it, let's just do what it says on the tin, make sure it can work the way it's meant to. So I measured it out on the sight glass 20, make sure no airlocks in there so it's settled. I started off in here with approximately, I don't know, 30, probably 30, yeah, it must have been around about, actually 37 litres in there, something like that. Maybe a bit more. The mash seemed a bit thin, if I'm honest. And what I've got left in here is about 16, so 20 off there, 60, whatever it turned out to be. about 16 litres left in here, but I need 13 of this to sparge with. So I'll lift this out, let that drain off. Sparge with the 13 litres that I need. I've got this little spray nozzle which I had for the fermenter on the Brewtools, so I'll use that as like the sparge piece to go around here to make sure it's an even spray. And now what I'll do is let that drain out, drain basket off, see it off when it's boiled for an hour. So here we go. I'll take the readings all the way through, but it'd be interesting to see what levels I've got just after this. And do I sparge to the right level, or the required volume for boil off, or do I sparge to what it's told me to sparge, as in 13 litres, because two could be different figures. So first off, let's lift this fucker out. Here we go. Well, that won't be that issue. Now at the moment we've got, about say 18 litres, so if I sparge with 30 it's going to give me 28, I should have 29. It's still draining out a bit, so a quick slurp. I'm going to come back to this in about 5 minutes when that's drained out to see what that level's going to be, so I need to know whether I need to put 13, 12, 10 what in. But if it all goes according to plan, I will probably sparge to the 29 level on there, then boil off. This will sound a lot higher though. Pre-boil volume. It's 29 and a half. Oh yeah, 3 litres, get down to 26, leaves the trub loss. Yeah. Hey, we are where we are. Give me 10 minutes, be right back. Right then, here we go. Almost at the boil. Boil reached. Perfection. Set that. It's not exactly the rolling boil you would expect. Oh, hold on, wait there. Let's show everybody. It's getting there though, I think. Watch the fucking phone drop out of the holder as we go. It is. It's starting, the break is happening. I think, so therefore I am. Right. We have our hop edition, which is not this top, it is a hop edition. And it is, I believe, 40 grams of size. She's just left bubbling away. Ah, here we go. Here we go. It bubbles more on this side than this side. No, one. So it's getting there. And what we actually wanted it to go. Every couple of minutes, we'll be able to go. Some people would say, if you put the hops in that, you'll avoid the boil over, but this ain't boiling over. Bubbling along, and you could suggest that that is in fact now a rolling boil, perhaps. Can you see that? Look like a rolling boil. I think so. Let's give it just another couple of seconds, and then we'll see how we go. To be fair. Stir that bit around, although that's just taking the heat out of it. she goes. Right then, so we are going for, as we said, a something or other. What are we after? 40 at 60, 30 at 20. So in half an hour time, we'll be back putting another 30 in there, but we'll just give that another keep it around. Stir the hops in. And off we go. Back in 30. Right then, here we go. Final chiller's on, put it around in there a bit. It's now drained out of there, put it into the fermenter. I've kept it a bit warm because I'm fermenting with Lutrin, which is around about 30-35, so hopefully it should be in about the ballpark for that. And yeah, it's been a fairly straightforward brew day so far, no real issues. Let's just check what's coming out of that pipe. Is this a little bit warm? It does feel warm. It's a bit warm. Bear with. Just turn the flow back up on the chiller to try and get a bit more cool water going through it so it cools down a bit quicker. The only problem I've got at the moment is that pipe on the exit of the where the chiller water comes out. It's got a bit of a, let's say, it's sprung a bit of a leak, was pissing out of there. So that's something I need to keep an eye on and probably investigate a bit further. But no, to be fair, the cold break's been done. We're now dropping down, increasing that water flow. It's got that water probably a little bit too cold now to be where it needs to be, but I'm sure that once we get the volume in there, it will be where it needs to be. I have my yeast starter here, which I'm about to just decant off. So we'll look, where are we on numbers? I'm guessing that ain't right. It might be, to be fair. Where did we start off? Where did we start? 1055, that is. Which I'm guessing is where we need to be. Bear with. Right then, here we go. So, what temperature we got on the Sparge water? A little bit warm, but it hurts. See if this works well. Never tried this one before, and I want to get down to around about 50 in there. So, that just does absolutely nothing. That thing. I suppose it's better when you pump it through. It's meant to spray out like a spray. So let's do that ourselves. How exciting! This is going to be very boring 10 minutes. It's interesting, if you spray it down the side, it doesn't necessarily just all piss out the side, because what you want to do is make sure it's washing all the grain off so it goes down the middle, not down the outside. The basket with holes on the outside. If you push it too much on the outside, then obviously it's just going to not touch a great deal of the grain. You go nowhere near where you want it to. I think it's a bit of an over-engineered contraption, to be fair. Probably would need this sort of somewhere. You know what? See how we go. Good thing is, it's draining really, really well, which means it's quite loose. Now the problem is it draining too quickly? So I've done 5 litres on the time I've been talking to you. So, but there's no, it's not leaving anything on the top as such. It's just wiggly wiggly washing it also, I think. Oh well, go to the side. 23. We need another 6 litres. Take another 6 litres out. That should be somewhere close. And bear in mind, this it doesn't really make me seem like I hit it or I don't on this first batch. It's a trial, if you like, which is why I've done with a really simple larder recipe. Just hopefully we come with something. Well, we come with something drinkable. Whether or not the numbers hit. So we do another couple of litres of this. There's 15 in there, so we need about 2 at the bottom. And then see what gives us on the sight glass. And that'll tell me whether or not the volume in there initially was right, the Sparge volume was half right, or whether or not we're way off the mark with all of it. So just a little bit more. Ooh. And shut that off. Right, there is probably about 2 litres left in the bottom there, so you there, you on there. Currently we've got on the sight glass 28. So you've 1 more litre to drain out of it. A pot to put it all in. Okay, let's get down to it proper. So, put you there. Oop. Let's just open you back up a bit. No suction in there anymore, so let's. There we go. One-handed brewing. Need 3 hands in this brewery. Right. That should be that. Right, now we've oversparred, but hey ho. The worst that's going to happen is it'll make a slightly weaker beer. On the basis this is meant to be turned out at 5.3, I think it was 5.3. Might help, but drips have gone to a certain extent. You in there? Just over 29 in there. 3 litre boil off takes me to 26. Should be where my figures need to go. So, big spoon. Always give it a stir. Water sits on the top, stronger at the bottom, weaker at the top. A wise man once told me that. Stratification. I say he's a wise man. I'm working fast and loose with that terminology. Here we go. What are we hoping for? Pre-boil gravity 1044. And we're at 1041. So, what we need to do is boil that a little bit longer. Actually, no, what we'll do straight off the bat is we will take another reader. We will chill that down in that beer. Handy having the beer there. So should take it down to a normal volume. Get the temperature right. And then put the little drops on. Yeah. Get rid of those bits of shit. .42. But you know what? All in all, with the guesswork that's just been involved in that and the site's not being quite right, I'm not too bothered. So what we got in here? Bang on 29, 1042, 2 points difference. Let's get the boil on. Back in a minute. Right, I should be on 1049, and according to this, I'm on 1052. So I lost a couple of numbers in the pre-boil, but I've gained more than enough back in the post-boil. So it'd be interesting to see what sort of volume I get out of this then into the fermenter, because I'm not quite sure how I set that up. I just went with what was in Brewfather, whether it's kettle volume or it's fermenter volume. But you know what? I think we'll be somewhere close with that, in all honesty. So not bad going at all. Right, I'm going to let that drain through. I'll see what we look like at the end, numbers wise, and then just drop it in the freezer here, and we'll go from there. But hopefully, big nut boom, bingo. Right, aiming for 23 litres, aiming for one starting gravity 1049, got 24 litres, got 1051. Can't go far wrong with that. Only problem thing I did miss was yeast nutrient and protofloc. So once again, it's the standard shit that I always miss, so there's no big deal there. Chances are this will end up being gelatin anyway. It is a very murky wort, but it hasn't had, I didn't really leave it a lot of time to settle out. I just fucking pumped out. Everything's going through the filter at the bottom anyway, so here we are. Just have a quick delve in there so you can see there's a lot of shit just hanging around. That plate at the bottom with the lip on will lift out, and then we just we bin all that and clean the bad boy out. Off we go again. So okay, I'll hopefully be kegging this in, I don't know, Wednesday. So Lucha should 3-4 days. Cold crash this point in time next week, ready for the coronation weekend. It should be kegged, it should be carbed, it should be being drunk. watch this space on that one. See you later, guys. Bye.